Well folks, on this video I have got an absolutely incredible story for you, one in which I never ever thought that I would hear these words come out of my mouth, but you read the title of the video correctly. I used ChatGPT to fix my car, and believe it or not, it worked. Now I want to preface this statement by giving you a little more context surrounding the story. Since supercharging my 1992 5-liter Mustang with a 2.1-liter Kenny Bell supercharger, I have been plagued with hot coolant temps. I have only taken the car out in 85 or less degree weather. I have not used my vintage air conditioning system that I installed, which kind of defeats the purpose of having it. And I've only driven it in a very mild manner for the most part. All of which has resulted in me barely being able to maintain coolant temps of around 205 to 210 degrees. They typically climb a lot higher than that, 220, 225. And that is on a very mild evening cruise in cool weather. For me, this just is not ideal, and I'd like to have the ability to take my car out in any and all conditions, use my air conditioning, and not have to worry about overheating my car. I currently have an aftermarket contour fan set up, which are approximately 11 inches in diameter. I purchased these from Late Model Restoration. They are bolted to a 3-core Mishimoto radiator, and in front of the radiator is Vintage Air's AC condenser. I will also add that I do have my plastic air deflector that's on the radiator support, and both sides of the engine have the OEM plastic shrouding installed. Just for fun, we're gonna run a little non-scientific comparison between the dual contour electric fans and the Spal dual electric fans. I've got my handy dandy wind meter here, or anemometer, and this will also measure wind temperature as well. But all we're concerned about is, again, the non-scientific measurement of how much these contour fans pull through my 3-core Mishimoto and my Vintage Air condenser. We're going to compare those two readings and see which one's better. Okay, this thing doesn't hold the reading, so you'll have to take my word on it, but we got right around 7.5 miles an hour, 7.5 to 8, depending on where I held it, and it was right behind the passenger side fan. So we'll do the same for the Spal and see how they compare. After spending a few months with the contour fans and knowing what they're capable of, I decided to take the advice of a few very good friends of mine and consider switching to Spal electric fans. During my exhaustive online search to find the right Spal fans for my application and to find them at a decent price, I finally settled on their 12-inch paddle style fans that are rated at 1640 CFM each. Before I decided to push buy now and purchase 2 fans that were going to cost me in and around 270 Canadian dollars each, I thought, let's go over to ChatGPT and see what it thinks about me replacing my contour fans with these 2 Spal electric fans. Before I get into discussing the ChatGPT results, I want to state that I am personally not the type of person that goes online and uses Google or now AI to help me make decisions on my car or any other aspect of my life for that matter. I personally think that we as humans have in many cases lost, or at the very least are losing, the ability to make decisions for ourselves. And the use of an online chat service like ChatGPT will only make us dumber on a macro societal level. Again, just for reference, this is my second time using ChatGPT for a car-related question, and both times have been for fun, and my expectations were very, very low. However, after messing around with it, I have to say, I'm rather impressed. I started asking it what it knew about the 12-inch Spal fans I was considering buying, and I specifically used the Spal part number to reference the exact fans I was asking it about. Its response was ridiculously thorough and even provided me with various applications that this specific fan is used for in other various industries and other automotive applications. I then went on to tell it that I had a Mishimoto 3-core radiator and a 1-core AC condenser, and I also gave it some details about my car, year, make, model. I then asked it how these Spal fans would perform when mounted to this radiator condenser setup in my specific car, and yet again, the details and advice it provided were very, very in-depth. At this point, I started to ask ChatGPT about the theoretical static pressures specific to my radiator and condenser combination. But these questions were more difficult for it to answer as there was not a lot of information on the web surrounding this topic. However, ChatGPT did provide me with static pressure data on other 3-core radiator/condenser combinations, to which it provided me those figures as hypothetical data to consider. For those of you that don't know anything about static pressure, it is a very technical measurement that I am in no way, shape, or form qualified to explain in any sort of intelligent manner. However, for the purposes of this video, think of static pressure as the limitation of airflow through a restricted space. In a very crude example, a 1-core radiator is going to have a lower static pressure than that of a 3-core radiator. Put another way, as static pressure increases, airflow decreases, which means the actual CFM capabilities of an electric fan decrease from its advertised rating, which is typically calculated with 0 static pressure. Following all of this, I asked ChatGPT to compare the dual 12-inch Spal fan setup that I was considering to that of the dual contour fan setup that my car currently has in it, and this is where the information started to get slightly skewed. ChatGPT did a great job providing the pros and cons of each electric fan setup. It even provided me with amperage draw information, wiring recommendations, and summed the information up by actually telling me that the contour fan setup was a more favorable option than that of the dual Spal fan setup. Now, this is the part of the story where I want to share with you my thoughts on where, when, and how I personally think ChatGPT can be very dangerous. Problem number 1, from personal experience, I know what the aftermarket contour fan setup is capable of. And I also know that it is claimed that the OEM contour fans are far superior, to which I agree with, to that of the aftermarket units available for sale today. Now, ChatGPT will show you the sources that it's pulling the information from that it's providing you with. And when I checked its references, much of the information it was providing me with was in reference to the OEM style contour fans. Problem number 2, ChatGPT could not find any data relating to how the contour fan CFM rating decreases as static pressure increases. Armed with some knowledge of my own, I know that the Ford contours that these fans come out of are fairly small, around a 1-core or so radiator, which would in turn have a lower static pressure. So given that, I feel it's safe to assume that the engineers at Ford would have most definitely taken this plus way more into consideration when designing and building the 95 through 2000 contours, which leads me to believe that the electric fan setup they chose was probably not picked for its ability to overcome static pressure, at least not to the extent that we in the Mustang world are wanting with our 3-core radiators, condensers, intercoolers, etc. So what's the takeaway from all of this? Had I not entered into that conversation with ChatGPT knowing the information I did, or at least been slightly critical of the information that it was providing me with, it would have taken me down a path of purchasing the aftermarket contour fans as a superior setup for my application. Further to all of this, I already tried the aftermarket contour fans in my car and they're obviously not up to the task. So what we're dealing with here is a cross-threading of information with missing context. Again, there's a huge difference between the aftermarket contour fan setup and the OEM contour fan setup. And now this is nothing against ChatGPT, it is only pulling information from what's available to it in the World Wide Web. But it doesn't know that there's a difference between the OEM fans and the aftermarket fans when referencing contour fans. Final reveal before we fire them up. These fans are a lot bigger than the contour fans. They're quite a bit deeper and they're a whole inch bigger than the contour fans as well. Now, that does kind of present a little bit of a scenario for me in that the fans are actually larger than the shroud, and it's kind of hard to see down on this side, but you could probably get a better view over on this side as to what I did to combat the situation. You can kind of see in here there's a piece of aluminum that I have fabricated and sketched out and essentially made it so that I block off the hole that this fan would otherwise have if I didn't have a block off here. it would essentially be sucking air in from outside the rad and not pulling it through the radiator fins. I don't think, no, it's kind of hard to see from here. Essentially that fan hangs over the shroud about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And like I say, I just built this little plate to cover that in. There's one on either side. It's actually what I used on this side to mount my overflow tank to. And yeah, that's a little tight in here, but it will work, right? We can still crack her, top it up, and do what we need to do. Now, let's see how these things suck. So same test as before. Let's fire this thing up. All right, I'm just gonna give you a little test as to how this thing works. There, I'm blowing about 1 mile an hour. So I'm gonna fire these things up. Now, be forewarned, I have been cautioned that these are a heck of a lot louder than the contour fans, but stand by, let's see what they're all about. Yeah, you know those are working. Okay, let's see how they do. Alright, so the Spals are pulling about 9 to 10 miles an hour worth of wind. So definitely a massive, well, maybe not massive, but an increase nonetheless over the contours, and they're 7 to 8. Moral of the story, ChatGPT can be a very effective tool for obtaining high-level information that you're searching for. A good analogy I've come up with for where I think ChatGPT is the most effective is, do you remember what it was like in the early 2000s when you would log on to, say, the Mustang forums or any other vehicle-specific forum for that matter to try and solve a problem that you were faced with? We'd spend hours and hours searching through 88 plus pages of forum posts until you found that one thread that saved the day. ChatGPT can save you all of those thousands of hours you spent reading, scrolling, and clicking through thousands of forum threads and provide you with the specific information that you are looking for in a matter of seconds. However, ChatGPT, much like the forums, suffer from the same shortcoming. Both can very easily provide you with terrible information if you're not armed with a critical mind and or have some basic understanding of the topics you're searching. With all that being said, ladies and gents, thank you so much for hearing my rant on ChatGPT and how it has assisted me with some of my automotive adventures. Again, I do not think that ChatGPT is the answer to all of our problems. However, is there a time and a place for it, and can it be an effective tool? I do believe that it can. Now, I'm really looking forward to the comments on this one. I know they're gonna be fire, so I will meet you guys down there. As always, thank you very much for tagging along. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Take care. Bye for now.